Hello, everybody. We're here with another episode of Fallout New Vegas. This is number 4, and it is the second half of the beginning tutorial quest, where you're collecting the ingredients to make the the healing powder or whatever the recipe is for the girl that leads you through the initial part, which was in the previous episode. So apparently, I was not aware of this, but a lot of people are having trouble finding this Xander Root. That's it right there, right in front of the schoolhouse. And then since I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and go inside and see what's in there and loot the place if there's anything available, which there is. So there's a couple of these giant praying mantis things, which present little to no threat. They're about the level of a rad roach. Really not a problem. I'd recommend using VATS on them if as much as possible, just because they can be a little bit difficult to aim at from time to time since they're so small. But you see here brings up the item condition thing. This is letting me know that my gun is getting to the point where it's pretty low as far as its status. So it's telling me that I should think about repairing this. And in the last Fallout game, when your weapon got to a lower condition, all it would do is decrease its value, which is not a big deal, and decrease the amount of damage that it does. But in this one, there are other negative effects in addition to those as well. Things like the gun will jam. I'm not sure if it'll jam when you're firing. I haven't noticed that yet, but I've had them jam when reloading. And it's a relatively quick fix that you don't have to press any buttons or anything like that. It pretty much happens automatically. And it doesn't really take a whole lot of time for him to unjam the gun. So it's really not much to worry about. At least on all the guns I've fired so far. But, you know, it's best to keep your weapons in pretty good condition. What I generally do is keep 2 to 3 of the same gun on hand at all times, so that if I do have one that needs to be repaired, I've always got similar parts there ready to repair it. So the next thing I want to touch on in this episode is the hacking, which can be a complicated process, and it can be very frustrating at times. In Fallout 3, I didn't really do a lot of hacking. If something had to be hacked, I just kind of let it go. But once I figured out a pretty solid process for doing it, you know, it may take a minute, but you'll eventually get it, and it's usually worth it. If you have to hack something, there's a pretty good chance that whatever you're going to get out of hacking it is worthwhile. So, I don't have the lockpick skill to pick the lock on this safe, but this terminal right here will open the safe if I hack it. My science skill is too low, so I had to use a skill magazine that gave me extra science points to hack. And so essentially what I do is just pick the first word out of the series, or just one at random, and then it'll tell me how many letters of the ones that were in there were correct. And so after that, I go to find one. If there was a lot of them correct, I'll find one that's similar but not quite the same. If there's only a few, then I'll find one that's drastically different from the first word I picked, and then go from there. And as you'll see, I never made anything happen with the first few attempts, but on the last attempt, it was the first thing I picked, which sometimes that'll happen. You'll just get lucky. So it's usually good to keep some of those skill magazines around, just in case you need them for something that your skills aren't high enough, whether it be to pick a lock or repair something or pick up a cool item or interact with someone in a way that you can't interact with your current skill level. So finish raiding this building of gear, excuse me, and we're going to go outside and get the last bit of this, the last bit of the items that we need to complete this quest. So, but before that, as I mentioned in the first episode, I'm going to go back and raid the doctor's house of all his stuff, since it doesn't count as stealing to take it, and I'm going to make that happen right now. And the first things that, some of the first things I come across in here, I didn't notice the first time around. right there on top of that crate, there's a broken 9mm submachine gun, and if your repair skill is high enough, then you can repair it and take it. So I go ahead and do that, because it's always good to pick up any weapon you find. You never know if it's gonna be good or not. But then this chemistry set here, if you have a science skill high enough to use it, you can use it to make chems. Chems are more or less drugs in the game, and they'll have various effects. Some of them will be detrimental, most of them will be good for you. The only thing you got to worry about with chems is if you take them too much, you can become addicted. And if you become addicted to chems, when you're not taking that particular chem, it'll negatively affect you, much like an addiction in real life. So use them sparingly, if you have to. There are certain actions that I take in the game where I need to increase a skill or something like that, and you'll notice that most of the chems will directly affect one of your special attributes. I actually became addicted to mentats at one point later in this game because I kept taking him as I needed more skills in a particular point, and mentats would increase that skill that I need. It is possible to become unaddicted to chems. I haven't figured out how to do it permanently, but I have found several items that will temporarily remove your addiction. So if you're going through a dry spell, essentially, where you can't get the chem that you need, that you're addicted to, and it's affecting you so much so that you're having a hard time, you can at least take one of those and get a little break from the addiction to complete whatever it is you're doing. So when I found out that I was addicted to mentats, I ended up going back and loading the game so that I could continue without taking them and avoid that addiction, because it can be a bit of a pain in the ass to be addicted to something in the game. You can also get addicted to beer and whiskey and other alcoholic beverages, which will affect you, some positive, some negative. It's good to look at it and see if if you're willing to sacrifice the negatives for the positives. Some of the benefits are similar to the chems. They'll affect a special attribute, and if you need that particular special attribute, then go ahead and drink it. Generally, it's strength or charisma that the alcohol will affect, whereas the chems will affect a wide variety of things, including damage bonuses or bonuses to damage resistance. So this is the graveyard. This is where the last item that I need for the survivalist quest to learn how to make the healing powder is located. And we're just going to kill these enemies here. The bloat flies. Typically anything that flies around is going to move pretty quickly, and you'll be a lot better off trying to shoot it in vats rather than trying to just kill it by aiming down the sights. And this item here, I have not exactly figured out what it is that you can do with it. It almost reminds me of the bobbleheads from Fallout 3, but it doesn't seem to give you any sort of advantage for picking it up. And all that little box said was that it was a collectible item, and people in certain places were willing to pay a lot of money for it. There's snow globes, and apparently they will be related to landmarks in the game. That one was the Good Springs landmark snow globe, and so far it's the only one that I have found. But I can only imagine that there are more of them out there. This grave, by the way, is the one that I was going to be buried in at the beginning of the game. And you'll notice these that have been freshly dug can be searched, but only if you have found a shovel. I actually bought the shovel in the general store in this town, Good Springs. And then turned out that I could use it here. So that works out, and then I just keep it with me at all times just in case I find more things that can be dug up for items. So there was some ammunition in there that I have not yet found guns to shoot said ammunition, but that's a little precursor, I guess, such as 12 gauge shotgun ammo. I have yet to find a 12 gauge. There was some ammo for the minigun in there. Haven't found a minigun yet. Well, I have on a different save game, but not on this one. So then I'm going to transport back to where Sunny Smiles, the quest giver, is, and go ahead and complete this quest by making the item. And this system of item creation reminds me of a combination of the weapon creation system from Fallout 3 and the alchemy system in Oblivion. And if you played Oblivion, almost every piece of foliage in the world could be picked, and they could be used as ingredients to make potions. This seems similar, but it doesn't seem like there's quite as many ingredients out there as there was in Oblivion. This is actually the only thing I ever crafted. I haven't done it since then. There's also, you can also reload ammunition. You'll notice if you shoot a gun, then you'll have the case from that piece of ammunition, and then if you buy the components such as powder and lead and whatnot, then you can create more ammunition with that case. And then there's also the weapon creation desks, which I haven't really fooled with either, but it's similar to Fallout 3 from what I can tell. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 5 coming soon.